They don't stand out for flashy designs or monstrous engines. They don't boast luxurious interiors or extravagant finishes either. Yet, Suzuki owners know the truth. These cars have a character of their own, a sense of genuine quality, something that simply feels right, built to last a lifetime. From the very beginning, Suzuki has built a reputation rooted in reliability, defined by that unmistakable Japanese hallmark of precision, durability, and attention to detail. While the brand no longer maintains a presence in two of the world's largest car markets, China and the United States, it still holds a prestigious image, valued at over $20 billion. But how did they get there? How did they go from a humble loom workshop to becoming part of the global transportation industry? And more importantly, who was the visionary behind this transformation? Today, we travel back to the late 19th century to rediscover the origins of Michio Suzuki, a relentless inventor who faced adversity with ingenuity and etched his name forever in the history of the automotive world. It was the 1880s, and Japan was undergoing a profound transformation. After more than 300 years of isolation and relative peace under the Edo period, the Meiji Restoration was in full swing, opening the country to foreign trade and rapidly adopting Western industrial models. Amid these sweeping reforms, Michio Suzuki was born on February 18, 1887, in the small farming village of Hamamatsu in Shizuoka Prefecture. Daily life at that time was harsh. Hamamatsu was an agricultural town, known for its cotton plantations and its traditional silk weaving. The Suzuki family was no exception to this labor. Michio grew up helping in the cotton harvest from a young age. He attended a few years of formal education, but his schooling ended after elementary level due to financial limitations. While he respected the family's work ethic, the daily routine never truly inspired him. His true passion lay in craftsmanship, in simple mechanisms that could improve daily life. He dreamed of building things, of making them better. In 1901, at just 14 years old, Michio set out to pursue that dream. He left farming behind and became an apprentice carpenter. Carpentry at the time was a respected trade, but it required a strict commitment to train under a master. Michio signed a 7-year contract with Kotaro Imura, a renowned cabinet maker in the region. However, just 3 years later, the outbreak of the Russo-Japanese War shook the national economy. Demand for furniture plummeted, and with it, the need for carpenters. In contrast, the textile industry was booming. Kotaro and Michio, seeking income, shifted their work to loom maintenance. For Kotaro, this change was a downgrade from the dignity of fine carpentry. But for Michio, the textile world would become his true calling. He quickly became an expert in traditional looms and discovered a field where his creativity could thrive. After completing his apprenticeship in 1908, Michio used his savings to purchase land in Nakajima, where he opened a small workshop focused on loom repair. Military service was compulsory during this period, and Michio was drafted into the Imperial Army. However, due to his short stature, he was deemed unfit for active duty and assigned to the reserves. This unexpected stroke of luck allowed him to devote himself fully to his workshop and to his true passion. Not only did he master the repair of looms, but he also began building his own. Inspired by Sakichi Toyoda, who had designed an automatic loom to ease his mother's labor, Michio developed his own model in 1909, a pedal-powered loom, created as a gift for his own mother. He remembered clearly the physical effort she and countless women in the village endured to weave by hand, His invention, simple yet efficient, increased textile output tenfold. Word of the young Suzuki and his innovative loom quickly spread across neighboring communities. By the age of 22, Michio had begun mass production and founded his own business, Suzuki Loom Works. The following decade saw continuous growth. Michio didn't settle for his first design. He improved his looms, added metal parts, and patented new versions capable of weaving checkered and multicolor patterns, something rare at the time. By 1920, Suzuki Loom had evolved from a local workshop into a company with over 100 employees. It was publicly listed as Suzuki Loom Manufacturing Company, establishing itself as a key player in the Southeast Asian textile sector. With a visionary mindset, Michio moved operations to a larger plant in Aoicho, Hamamatsu. His ambition seemed boundless, but as history often proves, success is rarely linear. Rising international competition began to saturate the textile market. And from within Japan came his greatest challenge, the automatic loom patented by Sakichi Toyota, which could stop automatically when a thread broke. A technological revolution that would redefine the entire industry. This was followed by the 1929 Great Depression, which devastated the global economy. For Suzuki, whose company relied heavily on exports, it was a crushing blow. Foreign demand evaporated almost overnight, and if things could get worse, they did. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, and by 1933 the occupation had solidified. International tensions rose, and economic sanctions were imposed on the Empire of Japan. Exports plummeted. In the face of this fierce competition, global crisis, and geopolitical pressure, Michio Suzuki understood one thing clearly. If his company was to survive, it had to reinvent itself, and the path forward lay in an entirely different industry. In the late 1920s and early 1930s, Japan was rapidly turning into an industrial hotbed. Cities were expanding, factories multiplying, and with them, a new need was beginning to take shape: motorized transportation. Without entirely abandoning the textile industry, Michio Suzuki did what he did best. He looked ahead. He observed the shifting pace of his country, the rise of urban and rural mobility, and set his sights on a new challenge. His vision was clear: to build a compact, affordable vehicle for the Japanese working class. In 1937, Suzuki Loom Manufacturing launched its first major automotive project. 2 years later, in 1939, the effort bore fruit. A functional prototype was completed. It was a small car, powered by an 800cc four-cylinder engine. Lightweight and accessible, the prototype promised to revolutionize transportation in a country where car ownership was still a luxury reserved for the few. But the world darkened. That same year, World War II broke out. As part of Japan's war effort, the government imposed severe restrictions on civilian production. Like many other companies, Suzuki was forced to redirect its manufacturing capabilities toward military needs. Michio's dream of creating Japan's first people's car was abruptly put on hold, and it would remain that way for over 15 years. The war stormed on, and the years of destruction passed with brutal speed. In 1944, Suzuki experienced the direct impact of conflict. Its new Taketsuka plant, inaugurated just 5 years earlier in 1939, was severely damaged by Allied bombings. It was a devastating setback, But the final blow would come not from the skies, but from the earth itself. On December 7, 1944, the Great Tonankai earthquake struck and obliterated the remaining facilities. Following Japan's surrender in 1945, Michio and his family, now expanded to include 2 daughters, sons-in-law, and grandchildren, returned to Hamamatsu. From there, they attempted to rebuild Suzuki loom manufacturing, modestly restarting loom production. But the landscape had changed. In a ruined country where the priorities were food and rebuilding entire cities, the textile industry was no longer essential. Between 1945 and 1950, Suzuki struggled to adapt to the new reality. They diversified their output, producing organs, harmonicas, and musical instruments, a survival tactic to keep the company afloat during the harsh years of Allied occupation. Michio didn't know it at the time, but the greatest transformation in his company's history and in his legacy was still to come. After the Treaty of San Francisco, Japan launched an aggressive reconstruction campaign across its devastated archipelago. Millions of people lived in poverty and unemployment. For Michio Suzuki, the situation was dire, but not the end. It was the beginning of a new opportunity. The country needed to move, and that meant only one thing: accessible transportation. In 1952, Suzuki introduced its first motorized vehicle, the Power Free, a bicycle equipped with a tiny 36 cubic centimeter 2-stroke engine, producing barely 1 horsepower. Its key innovation: versatility. The rider could pedal, use the engine, or combine both. It was an instant hit. Up to 4,000 units were produced per month. The following year, the brand launched the Diamond Free, a more motorcycle-like design with a 60cc engine and 2 horsepower. Monthly sales surpassed 6,000 units. And in 1954, Suzuki unveiled its first true motorcycle, the Collida. With a 90cc 4-stroke engine and a top speed of 40 miles per hour, it became a national symbol. Its name, "This is the One," was a statement of purpose. With the Collida, Suzuki began shaping its sporting DNA. They entered the legendary Mount Fuji Hill climb race and won, defeating 86 other competitors. That same year, the company changed its name. Suzuki Motor Corporation was born. But Michio hadn't forgotten his most ambitious dream. In 1955, he fulfilled it by launching the Suzulight, a microcar built for the masses. More than just a budget vehicle, the Suzulight was a technological pioneer. It featured front-wheel drive, independent suspension, and rack and pinion steering, solutions that wouldn't become common in the global industry until decades later. Legend has it, the first buyer was a rural doctor. He needed to reach any destination in any weather. That demand became Suzuki's guiding philosophy: reliability above all. With his vision fulfilled, Michio Suzuki retired as president in 1957 at the age of 70. He remained part of the board of advisors until the end of his days. His son-in-law, Shunzo Suzuki, who had taken on the family name, became the company's second president. In 1958, under Shunzo's leadership, the now iconic Suzuki S emblem made its debut. In just 5 years, the company had completely redefined its destiny. But in Japan, progress always coexists with the unpredictable. In 1959, Typhoon Vera, one of the most destructive cyclones in the country's history, struck with full force. Suzuki's plant in Hamamatsu was severely damaged. Once again, Suzuki would have to rebuild, to move forward. Throughout the 1960s, Suzuki rose again. Its main plant was rebuilt, the company expanded its automobile lineup, and it firmly established itself in the world of motorcycle racing. In 1961, Suzuki entered the utility vehicle market with the launch of the Carry Suzulight, its first light-duty microvan. This was the beginning of the Suzuki Carry family, built to meet the everyday needs of a nation under full reconstruction. At the same time, Suzuki began to make a name for itself on a different front: motorsport. In 1962, the company earned its first major international victory at the Isle of Man TT, winning the 50cc class with German rider Ernst Degner. The following year, Suzuki made history, claiming victories in both the 50cc and 125cc categories, thanks to Hugh Anderson and Mitsuo Ito, the latter becoming the first and only Japanese rider to win a TT race. In 1965, Suzuki broadened its horizons. It launched Suzuki Marine, dedicated to outboard motors, and unveiled the Suzuki Fronte 800, a reliable and fuel-efficient 360cc K car, perfectly suited to post-war Japan. The growth continued across Asia, but it was during the 1970s and 80s that Suzuki achieved true global scale, expanding into Australia, China, Europe, and the United States. In 1970, a legend was born: the Suzuki Jimny, a compact, affordable 4x4 off-roader that became an icon of lightweight engineering and rugged design. By the late 1970s, Suzuki released the Alto, a small, reliable car that would become a bestseller in emerging markets. Its design would later inspire the now famous Daewoo Tico. During this period, the company also diversified its portfolio in a unique and deeply symbolic way. In 1977, Suzuki began manufacturing electric wheelchairs, applying its engineering prowess to the world of mobility assistance. The 1980s marked a new chapter, driven by strategic alliances. Suzuki signed partnerships with General Motors, Isuzu, and Land Rover Santana in Spain. But the most transformative of all was its partnership with Maruti in India, laying the foundation for an unprecedented automotive dominance. Today, Maruti Suzuki controls over 50% of the Indian car market. In 1983, Suzuki launched the Swift, a compact hatchback that became a cornerstone of its global expansion. In the United States, it was sold as the Chevrolet Sprint, thanks to the GM alliance. 2 years later, in 1985, Suzuki officially entered the North American market under its own brand with the Suzuki Samurai, an international version of the Jimny. And in 1988, it released the successful Vitara SUV, blending urban versatility with true off-road capability. Amid this wave of growth, the company suffered an irreparable loss. Michio Suzuki, the founder and visionary behind it all, passed away at the age of 94. A versatile genius with over 120 registered patents, he left behind an industrial legacy that lives on to this day. During the 1990s, Suzuki continued launching new models such as the Wagon R, Baleno, and Grand Vitara, known as Grand Nomade in some regions. But challenges emerged. General Motors, then a key partner, began sinking under its own financial struggles, which dragged down Suzuki's international momentum, especially in Western markets. In 1999, Suzuki closed the century with a bold statement, introducing the Hayabusa, a motorcycle that became the fastest production bike in the world, surpassing 186 miles per hour. A technical masterpiece and a cultural icon, By then, the company had celebrated two historic milestones: 40 million motorcycles and over 10 million cars produced worldwide. With the turn of the millennium came a new chapter of leadership. Osamu Suzuki, Michio's other son-in-law and a key figure in the company's global expansion, took the helm and would remain a pivotal force until 2015. The 21st century introduced a wave of strategic alliances, some promising, others short-lived, that would reshape the company's direction. One of the most significant shifts was the gradual disengagement from General Motors, which between 2006 and 2010 was forced to sell its 20% stake in Suzuki in a desperate effort to save its own brands. In 2009, a new partnership emerged with great potential. Volkswagen acquired 19.9% of Suzuki, aiming to penetrate emerging markets like India, while Suzuki expected access to German engineering. But tensions quickly surfaced. By 2010, it became evident that both sides had very different expectations. Volkswagen sought to exercise strategic control, while Osamu Suzuki firmly opposed any attempt at subordination. "Suzuki will not become just another brand in the German Empire," he declared. Things escalated when Suzuki signed an independent deal with Fiat to acquire engines, something Volkswagen considered a breach of contract. In 2011, Suzuki demanded to dissolve the alliance and took the dispute to international arbitration. By 2015, it had repurchased its shares and formally ended the partnership. The chapter closed with visible tensions and considerable reputational and managerial costs. That same year, Suzuki ceased automobile production in the United States, following a steady decline in sales. Only its motorcycle and marine engine divisions remain active in the American market. In 2018, the company also exited the Chinese market after ending its joint venture with Changan Automobile amid a growing domestic preference for larger vehicles and SUVs. But in 2019, a new strategic light emerged. Toyota acquired a 5% stake in Suzuki, while Suzuki took a small share in its new partner. The deal allowed Toyota to expand its reach in India, where Suzuki reigned supreme, and enabled Suzuki to access Toyota's cutting-edge hybrid and electric technologies. Since 2015, Suzuki has been led by Toshihiro Suzuki, Osamu's son and Michio's grandson. Under his leadership, the company has prioritized electrification, sustainable mobility, and efficiency, launching innovations like smart hybrid technology. Despite its scale, Suzuki remains proudly a family-owned business. As of 2025, Suzuki Motor Corporation employs over 60,000 people, operates in more than 190 countries, and maintains a market capitalization close to $20 billion. Globally, Suzuki ranks as the 9th largest automaker and the 5th largest motorcycle manufacturer. But beyond the numbers, Michio Suzuki's spirit lives on. His vision, innovation, accessibility, reliability remains the company's guiding force. A century after its founding, Suzuki is still moving forward, faithful to its roots, yet always looking to the future. And that concludes the story of Suzuki Motor Corporation, a Japanese brand that, without excess or spectacle, has spent more than a century staying true to the legacy of its founder, Michio Suzuki. If you're a fan of Suzuki or the automotive world, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story caught your attention, you might want to discover how a company that once built warplanes went on to conquer the global car industry, becoming a symbol of reliability around the world. Subaru. See you in the next video.